Good morning again, everybody. I don't have a lot of voice and I don't have a lot of energy. I think you know that. But I did have some thoughts about this service when I put it together before Christmas, and I'm going to offer you what I can, hoping that'll give you some inspiration or something good to take away. I got some notes in front of me. Sometimes I'll read, sometimes I'll just look at them. Here we go. So, it's the new year. You know what happens at the new year. A bunch of us make resolutions, right? And they're usually resolutions about something that's wrong with us, something that we need to be better at. So, better at our weight, better at our exercise, better at our eating habits, better at finishing the projects we started and left in a pile somewhere, better with our relationships and with the people we love. And we also know what happens with those resolutions often, don't we? We don't complete them. We don't live up to them. The statisticians will tell us that mainly people fail at their New Year's resolution by about January 17th. So maybe you've already failed at your resolution. Maybe you're going to make it to the 17th, maybe not. Maybe you're a lucky person who knows how to put a resolution together and actually get to it. Well, one of the other funny things about resolutions, aside from the fact that we don't complete them and maybe relate to it, is that we often are making the same resolutions. You're making resolutions about your weight or about your eating habits or about the messy piles in your house. I'm making those resolutions. Someone next to you is making those resolutions. We make the same resolutions, but as individuals. We make it so that we're all making them separately and we're often failing individually. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if instead of failing separately, we had an accountability buddy or someone who we were doing it with? That actually increases the likelihood that you might follow through with the resolution. And I want to come back to that thought a little bit later. I thought about the difficulty of resolutions and I liked the idea of not taking it anymore. Not taking it anymore. Not something I want to fix about myself, but something I'm not going to take anymore. What is it that I'm not going to take anymore? Well, most of the things I don't want to take anymore are big things. Big things like I don't want to take anymore rotten political discourse and infighting. I don't want to take that anymore. I don't want to take plastics pollution anymore. I don't want to take war anymore or children killing their teachers with handguns. I've had enough of it. I've had enough of voter suppression. I've had enough of homophobia and transphobia and all the hatred and violence that comes with that. I don't want to take any of that anymore. Where would you go with that? What don't you want to take anymore? Or what do you want to not have to put up with anymore? There's a lot more things I could put on that list, and I imagine you have some too. But how I would not put up with it anymore comes down to burying my head in the sand. I could stop listening to the news. I could stop paying attention. And I wouldn't be taking it anymore. But it wouldn't really solve anything. And so, in a way, it would just end up like some of my New Year's resolutions. And either way, whether it's a personal uh, resolution or this sense that there's something toxic in our environment, many toxic things that I don't want to put up with anymore. It comes down to failure, right? I failed again in some significant way to make a change. And those failures kind of build up and become worries. And we saw what worries can look like earlier today with the story, didn't we? We saw uh, sadness, scariness, always lingering there behind your head, doesn't go away, builds and builds, starts to take over everything, takes over beauty, takes over joy. There are so many things that we can worry about, personal and collective. And it's really horrible that we begin to be overcome by these worries. And the world is going to hell in a handbasket. And we don't even believe in hell. Or maybe there should be a special hell for certain people who are causing or driving or capitalizing on all of these looming horrible worries. But how do we break the cycle of resolving to not take something anymore and not be able to do anything about it when we can't right all the wrongs of the world? I did choose that Twisted Sister song from the announcements on purpose, of course, but for a particular reason. Um, and it's that important word, we're, as in we are. We are not going to take it anymore. Even the punks knew that you needed collective action to make change, collective action. That a worry shared is a worry that keeps a proper distance. It stays in proportion to life, a life that is good and beautiful and joyful as well as painful and sorrowful. What does Ruby do when she's overwhelmed by worry? She talks to a friend. She shares the worry, and she shares the worry of another person. And like an accountability buddy, she cares whether her friend's worry overwhelms them. She cares to help that friend not be overwhelmed. She wants the help not to be overwhelmed too. And it is that collective, that we are, that's so important. We forget sometimes what human beings are, how powerful we are when we are a body. Now, 2 years ago on January 6th, we saw powerful people and the power of people wreak havoc, do damage, do terrible things at our capital. Sometimes we can think that this we are can only do the worst, but we know that is not true. We know that people gathered together, connected to each other, connected by that invisible thread of knowing we are connected, knowing that we are stardust, all of us, and that we share in our bodies the exact same elements. We know in that unity that our collective action can make the change in the world, especially by making us less isolated, less in charge of our own failure, and more connected to effort and to each other. We have been, as many have, gathered as a religious community, 2 or more gathering to create more power than is possible with one, and calling on power beyond 2, beyond whatever, 3, tapping into that power that exists. We come together on a Sunday to remember that there is power in numbers and there is power among us, especially when we remember who we are. We gather this morning to make sense of ourselves and this universe in which we live as best we are able. And we call ourselves to worship together and to invoke the power and wonder of life itself, to which all those spirits of animals and memories of heroes pointed the way. We invoke that power, which is, we know, always around, always with us, but which we sometimes forget about. We forget that we are part of the whole creation. We forget that we are stardust. We forget that we are capable of miracles, first among them, that we can love. We forget these things, and so we invoke the power of existence so that we can remember, so we can lift our eyes and open our ears to the true and the beautiful. Even when we think back to resolutions that are easily broken, we know 2 are better than 1. We know an accountability buddy can help us to get to the goals we want. Someone who cares that we will get there as much as they care that they will get there. I knew that when I was weight training. I paid a trainer, and you would think it was because I paid that person that I went to the training, but it was really because that trainer was waiting for me. And she wanted me to be as successful as I wanted to be. And so I became more successful with her. We are, two are better than one. Many are better than two. Now, you all know this as well as I do. You who are part of a community 70 years old and counting, part of a denomination hundreds of years in the making, with roots and people and practices thousands of years in the making. And you know that we need each other. That collective power is the only way to make real change. Whether we are talking about changing the way that government functions, or making sure there is more affordable housing in Mankato, or deciding whether to make any changes in our collective fellowship property, it takes all of us as a group willing to share our different ideas, willing to listen to each other and to learn from each other, willing to see the value in another person's perspective, to build a new way out of collective voices, not something one of us thought of, but something that emerges because we all work together to think it out. We know this. We resolve to this, and we know how easily resolutions are broken. But when we resolve to love, when we resolve not to take it anymore, what are we resolving to? We're resolving to a distance from isolation and individuality only. Isolation and individuals that need to have the right answer. That often leaves us in a state of stalemate. Perhaps we can decide that there are some things collectively we will not take anymore. And we can decide that relationship, that love for each other is going to mean more than anything we won't take. In fact, we will take that. We will take relationship. We will take love. And we will take that to any decision we make about church property or budgets. Togetherness, relationship, and love, that allows us to move beyond a feeling of scarcity and the uselessness that provides for us as we're imagining our future. We can decide that living into the future together as a fearless community is what we really want, because only as community can we join other communities to change the way government functions, to be sure there's affordable housing in Mankato and beyond, to be sure that there will be gun safety laws and anti-racist policing and safety for our queer folk and all the goodness and the beauty we long for in this world. May it be so. May you resolve to love. May you not take any more isolation, individualism, and the failure that often brings. Remember this as you remember. You are loved, you are worthy, you are welcome, and you are needed. May you feel it so. May it be so. And amen.